Hello and welcome back here to the SRL TV and Joseph Light Broadcasting's coverage of the SRL TCR League season number 11. We are here already for the 5th round of competition. How are we halfway through season 11 already? It is absolutely flying by, and I can't believe that this has already taken us all the way to the halfway stage. What a season it has been so far. That kicked off 5 weeks ago at Dunnington Park. We then headed out to Mugello on April 17th. Nürburgring was April 24th for round number 3. We headed out a week ago to Silverstone, and what a week of asking it was at Silverstone last time out. Constant racing, and same with Nürburgring as well. It's been all season long, constant battles for all of our drivers up and down the field. We head out here today at Imola though for the halfway stage of competition. Watkins Glen will then kick off round number 6 and the back half of the season in a week's time, before we then head across to Snetterton on May 22nd. Thruxton is on the board on May 29th before we head into June. Mid-Ohio will be on the 5th of June, followed by Zandvoort at the very end of it. It is going to be a great second half of the season. The first half of competition will come to a close here today. Who is going to find their name at the top of the championship order? Well, it is going to be a bit of a fight out there. We start by having a look at our amateur field of drivers. Who is going to be standing at being at the very top of the order in that one? Well, it's going to be anyone's guess, really, because Joshua Syme is currently leading the amateur field of drivers in the Snail's Pace Racing Team machine. He has 163 points to his name. Christian Larsen sits behind with 162 points to his name in the Sim Racing Norway by Bill Og Motorbloggen machine. It is then Torbjørn Mael who sits another point behind in the Sim Racing Norway Amateur Endurance Team. The top 3 drivers separated by 2 points. That is it out of the first 4 rounds of competition, and it's not a long hunt back before you get to Matt Pearce. Now, Matt Pearce came in and took 2 race victories at Silverstone. He is much faster than any other amateur out there right now. In fact, in his class, he is a whole second faster than any other driver in his class at this current stage of competition. So I do expect to see Pearce find his way to the front of the order potentially at the end of today's running. Luke James sits in 5th position, 140 points. He's only 2 points clear of Chris Evans. Kevin Marshall sits in 7th with 128 points. Lewis McCaig in 8th, ahead of Harvard Hastad, and Scott Malcolm in 10th position. Is then Shmoy Samuel in 11th, ahead of Andy Littler. Michael Gagnon yet to get out onto the track, and as I look, he is not out there today either. With that being said then, so there are a few changes with our record books in the amateur field because of promotions for some of the drivers in your amateur field up to the Pro-Ams, and notably Marcus Gesdow and David Price. It means that now in your record books in your amateur field, it's 2 victories apiece for Matt Pearce and Luke James. Torbjørn Mael has inherited victory as well, along with Chris Evans. Kevin Marshall has taken victory. He took that on track anyway, and so and then Joshua Syme inheriting a class victory as well. So 6 names on that. Pearce and James with 2 apiece. Mael, Evans, Marshall, Syme with 1 apiece in the victory lane. Then we jump across to our Pro-Am drivers, our next class up, and it is Lucas Henschel at the top of that. Henschel having a good second season in the Pro-Am field after winning the amateur field 2 seasons ago. Back in season number 9, he has stepped up for this season, and he's at the top with runner-up in your amateur field last season, Thomas Coombe, who's already finding himself up towards the front of the order of your Pro-Am field. Paul Hurley is just a single point behind in 240. Then David Price is up there. He was promoted out of the amateur field up into the Pro-Am field this season. 233 points to his name, 7 points behind Hurley, 8 behind Coombe. Is then a little bit of a trek down to Alan McCain in 5th. Gesdow, who was promoted up into the Pro-Am this season as well, in 6th position. And last season's amateur champion, Vigard Olsen-Leah, sitting in 7th, having a rather good season, I mean, for Olsen-Leah, but just still finding his feet in the Pro-Am field. Hasn't found his way to the front of the field as of yet. Josh Taylor sits in 8th position in that championship ahead of Dami Herber. It is Stuart Gibbons rounding out your top 10, followed by Chris London. Yet to see Ben Gibbons out onto the track for this season. With, again, some promotions, some changes in the class in your Pro-Am. Lucas Genschel being promoted up. David Price being promoted up. They've still taken victory this season in class. Lucas Henschel has taken 2 Pro-Am victories alongside David Price and Thomas Kuhn. Marcus Gesdow has taken 1 class victory, and Stuart Gibbons, the other driver to have taken 1 class victory in your Pro-Ams. We then jump over to your semi-pro field of drivers in this one. Bradley Sellers is leading the way in that championship. Bear in mind, he was in the Pro-Am championship at the start of the season. They moved him up in the semi-pros. He leads the semi-pros, 50 points clear of Simon Muldercleave, who sits in 2nd place right now. And then it is JB Dejay in 3rd. Tony Walker, 4 points back in 4th position, further 7 points ahead of Ronald de Jong. De Jong only 2 points clear of Daniel Lewis. Carl Hardy 16 points back. Another 9 points back is Demis Titchler. Jump back another 8 points is Craig Walters. You can see how close it is between all of those drivers there. Marko Mikalainen, who's moved up into the semi-pros as well. He sits in 10th position in class. Fraser Garrity sits in 11th. Adedek Crowther and Peter Van Gool, the last of your drivers with points on the board. Stephen Fry yet to get out for this season. With changes once again in your semi-pro field, it means now that Bradley Seller, after being promoted up into the semi-pros, has taken 2 class victories this season. Mikalainen has taken 1, as has Muldercleave, Titchler, De Jong, Walker, and Carl Hardy. Hardy taking his first class victory of the season in race 1 at Silverstone last time out. We then had a look finally at our pro field of drivers, and it is Daniel Downing, your semi-pro champion from season 10, who leads the order. 502 points to his name. He is 38 points clear of Kim Borkland. Borkland only 5 points clear of Gordon Haig, but look at that jump all the way back down to Ben Oucher. Oucher, remember, did not race at Donington Park, which means that that will be a drop week. So once the drops are applied, Oucher could find himself closer to the top end of that championship than it currently is showing him. Season 9 pro champion and multiple pro champion Dan Mould finds himself in 5th position right now, 363 points to his name, ahead of John Brown, who sits 11 points back, 1 point clear of Chris McIntosh. Another massive jump back to Mark Draper in 8th, ahead of Braden Sagasat, and of course we've not seen Jack Brown out in a little while, only 72 points to his name, and Samuel Sproul at the back end of that field. Luke Woodhouse yet to come out for this season of competition. There are no changes in the pro category in terms of victory, so I'll remind you as it was out of Silverstone. 3 wins so far this season in the pro category for Dan Mould, 2 for Daniel Downing, 2 for Ben Oucher, and 1 for Gordon Haig. Haig taking class victory at Silverstone last week, where Bradley Sellers was the first non-pro driver to take overall race victory in race number 2 at Silverstone. Halfway through this season at the end of today then, are we going to see any other non-pro drivers find their way to the front? It is a tricky circuit to contend with tonight. The Imola circuit, the Autodromo Enzo Dino Ferrari, of course, for this one, as we head in towards the start of the 5th round of competition, qualifying to get themselves underway in about 4 minutes time, and then we will get ourselves on to the track to see who is going to find their way to the front of the order. Dan Mould, although he is only sitting 5th position in the championship so far, he has taken 3 pole positions, and as I see, 3 class victories. He is showing great pace in race number 1. Race number 2, it's not gone his way. A number of times that we have seen Mould falling down the order out of the race early due to early incidents. He'll be hoping that that doesn't happen here, but the Imola circuit, very tricky, of course. It is a tight, it is a difficult circuit to get around in, especially in front-wheel drive machines that are naturally understeery. They want to pull you out of the corner, and of course pulling you out to the corner around Imola will end you in the gravel off the circuit, pulling yourself not lining yourself up for the next corner particularly well with the way that the understeer works in these cars. However, our drivers are lapping and they are getting some good times on the board. Gordon Haig taking 1st class victory last season, not taking home a overall race victory out of last week, though, with that class victory, of course, going to Bradley Sellers, the overall race victory. But could Gordon Haig finally take an overall victory today? He is looking quick out there. Himself and Kim Borkland are separated by less than half a tenth of a second in this practice session, and they are finding themselves over 1.5 tenths clear of Ben Oucher and Dan Mould out there right now as well. So there is a bit of a gap, but we do see our 5 pro drivers that are, 5 of our 6 pro drivers that are taking part today up inside the top 5. John Brown finds himself in 7th. He's not too far off of those pro drivers at the front. We see 11 semi-pro drivers, 8 pro-ams and 7 amateur drivers going out there today. A total of 32 drivers. It is the smallest class of field that we have going out, of course, over the course of this season. And I think that highly is just the track that we've come to. It's not one that too many people own. I thought I'd already owned it, actually. I had to pick it up before the start of this broadcast. Because I thought I'd already owned it and I hadn't. It isn't a track that too many people own nor enjoy, especially in these touring cars. It is a very... Oh, it's an old circuit, isn't it? It is a very old circuit. It is one that has... it's a love it or hate it track. For myself personally, it's a hate it track. I don't like getting down there on this track. However, I do think that it is going to promote some absolutely fantastic and wild racing here on SRL TV for the 5th round of competition. So, as a broadcaster, as a spectator to tonight's event, I am thoroughly chuffed that we're heading across to Imola. As a driver, I certainly wouldn't be enjoying it down there on the circuit myself. However, practice is coming to a close here, and we are going to prepare ourselves for the qualifying session as we get going for this one, as we prepare for what is going to be a brilliant evening of racing once more. 2 races coming your way, of course. Our 20-minute race, which will be determined by the qualifying order, and then our 25-minute race, which will be the race results from race number 1, but with your top 10 inverted. So it is going to be interesting to see how this all plays out over the course of this evening. Are we going to see anyone being able to touch Daniel Downing at the top of the championship? Well, he is the 5th fastest of your pro drivers right now, which means that there are 4 pro drivers: Oucher, Mould, Borkland, Haig. I mean, all of those potentially in with the championship when drop weeks comes applied. They're all up there. They're all competitive. This is going to be interesting to see how this qualifying session unfolds. 15 minutes of qualifying then is ahead of us, and we are going to see what drivers are able to do on this qualifying lap. Now, Ben Oucher has put in some good results over the course of this season. He didn't have the best of Silverstone rounds last time out, there's no doubt about that, but he did get some solid points on the board. Of course, Oucher was not here back at Donington Park, which means that he took 0 points out of that one, whereas other drivers were taking a significant amount. Once the drop weeks are applied later on in the season, Oucher could find himself back into a championship fight at the very front of this one. So we'll see what the 504 machine is able to do. Can he find it to pole position for the first time this season? Dan Mould has got pole position 3 times this season. Daniel Downing is the only other driver to have taken pole position. He did that at Mugello. Mould was not the fastest in practice, but he's not often the fastest in practice before we get into these qualifying sessions. He fires some pace, as that was Gordon Haig having a massive moment in the middle part of the lap there on his out lap. That's not what you want to do. I mean, it's one way to heat up your tyres, that's for sure, but it's going to kill them a little bit before you get onto qualifying laps. Oucho trying to warm up his tyres in a more well, the usual way, I would say, the conventional way of warming up your tyres, weaving along the straights instead of sliding your way around the course. Right then, we head into the final couple of corners, and we are going to ride on board here with Ben Oucher. In fact, we ride on inside with Ben Oucher here, as he will get a lap of the fantastic Imola circuit. As we head along the timing line, it's going to be there. Before the kink, that the timing line will kick on for Ben Oucher. We then head up towards the first braking zone. It is going to be an overtaking opportunity in the race, but it is going to make it very tight, especially with those sleeping policeman curves on the inside there. Those make it a bit uncomfortable to cut across the inside. Make sure you keep it on the track as you push it out of the first chicane into a circuit of chicanes. We go into the second one, you're braking more through the chicane rather than into the chicane there, and then onto our hairpin, the left hand side again. There's going to be a number of overtaking opportunities through a few of these corners, but we head out of the hairpin here. Oucher isn't getting any toe along the straight. He's giving that toe to the drivers behind, but it means he's not going to be held up through any of the corners, of course. We head now down towards the middle part of the circuit. This is where we saw Haig lose it on the opening outer lap. For Oucher though, he gets on the brakes, it's smooth all the way through, shifting down, back on the throttle as we head up now towards the final chicane, the tightest chicane and the easiest one to get it wrong. Throw yourself off the circuit or even cut the course and invalidate your lap. Again, those curvings on the inside, you can ride those quite comfortably though in the TCR machine as we now head up towards the end of the lap and up towards the final heavy braking zone. Swing it to the right hand side as much as you can before you cut it across to the curving on the left. A little bit of a bump, push it out wide, and again get it turned in. The natural understeer of these machines pulls you onto the turf on the outside. Now you want to keep it as tight as you can to the right hand side of the course, to the wall, and Ben Oucher will come up towards the timing line. And what time will this be for Ben Oucher as he crosses over the timing line? It's a 1:51.229. Gordon Haig behind invalidated his first lap time, so it's no lap time on the board for the drivers directly behind Oucher. And for Dan Mould, he is looking for a 4th pole position in 5 rounds as he goes provisionally fastest of them all. Thomas Coombe stepping into the Pro-Ams this season, looking to try and take the championship fight to the front. He has, of course, taken 2 class victories so far, looking to see what he can do on the board for our drivers here today. They are all running the same setups, those fixed setups, so it is driver skill that finds your way to the front of the order, and of course a little bit of the car that you choose to run as well. 1 free car swap for our drivers, and then they will need to stick it into the same car for the rest of the season. For most drivers though, they do stick 1 car and stick with it all season long. The car of choice, of course, the new Audi machine that was introduced at the start of the iRacing season. But you cannot discount the Elantra that a fair few of our drivers, about 6 of our drivers tonight, are running. For Thomas Coombe, he finds himself 10th fastest overall. It's 3rd in class right now, but we've talked about the fact that Matt Pearce is running very quickly, stepping in later into the season here. I wouldn't be surprised if there is just a last moment change for Matt Pearce. However, I do feel like it's also a bit too late in the season to make class changes. But for Pearce, stepping in very recently. He took the double last week. He is running significantly faster than anyone else in his class, especially during practice. Right now, it's only a few tenths quicker than Scott Malcolm, but in practice, he was a whole second quicker than anyone else in class. Pierce, is he going to go for even more wins here today? Gordon Haig taking first class win last season, looking for overall win for the first time, has gone fastest of everyone, half a second clear of Mould. Borkland finds himself just ahead of Dan Mould, but still finds himself behind Gordon Haig, who is running fast out there in the 911 machine. Like I said, taking first class victory at race number 2 at Silverstone last week. It was not overall race victory. Bradley Sellers in your semi-pro class managed to steal that away from the Sim Racing Norway by Poly Academy machine. Of course, that team leading the team's... Oh, I do apologise, I hit the wrong button. Leading the team's championship as it stands right now going into this evening as, well, they've been leading it since the start of the season, in fact. And with that being said, they are leading with 923 points over the SRL purple machine being run by Downing and Draper. They have 703. They have a 220-point advantage, of course, before drops. But even once drops are applied, the team between the two of them, Haig and Borkland, is absolutely untouchable. They're both always up at the front, and yes, they're not leading either of the championships at the moment. They are sitting right at the top in second and third in the championships, I believe it is, to the point where they are just, because they are both so strong, they are pulling that team up so much up the order. Dami Herber here is running very strong as well in the number 57 machine, although not officially in the Snails Pace Racing machine, as each of those teams can only run 2 drivers. He is under that umbrella, of course. Joshua Sam, one of your Snails Pace Racing drivers, that is officially under there, that is out there right now. Josh Taylor trying to get some time onto the board as well in the JC Academy machine. He finds himself running a very interesting line there. That certainly will invalidate his lap, but he kicks up a lot of grass onto the track. For Josh Taylor here, he will be trying to put a lap time onto the board to find his way in towards a championship fight as well, because as it stands in that Pro-Am field, Joshua Taylor down in 8th position at the moment, needing to get some points on the board. He's not too far off of a potential 5th position from Alan McCabe. So he could find his way up the order, but he needs to get some good points onto the board here today. As he comes through, he pushes it wide through the final chicane, and it is an easy one to get incorrect and get it a little bit wrong, and that's what happened there. Lucas Henschel also looking to try and get some points onto the board for Henschel. He had what was, I would consider, a very slow step up into the Pro-Am field last season. After winning the amateur field, he had a lot to learn in season number 10 in his first season in the semi-pro field, but in the Pro-Am field. But this second season in the Pro-Am field, he finds himself at the very top, and because of promotions from other drivers, Henschel has taken 2 class victories, inheriting victory race number 2 at Donington Park and race number 1 at Nürburgring. So although he didn't do it in the evening of asking, he has taken those victories after the promotions were applied to our other drivers, and of course they were taken out of their classes and taken up into the semi-pro field. Bradley Sellers being one of those drivers, and I believe it was Marco Mikulainen, who was the other driver, that were both promoted up and therefore given those victories the way of Lucas Henschel. Can Henschel get a lap time onto the board then and find himself finally somewhere in the order? But right now the answer is no. He will go again though for what is going to be a 6th time of asking. Lucas Henschel is going to be trying to get a time onto the board here and place himself higher up than what will be outside the top 30 right now. You really don't want to miss out on getting a lap time in qualifying, because you will be so far down the order, and for Lucas Henshaw at the moment, he does find himself all the way down the order. Stuart Gibbons, at the moment, he was in the session during the practice session. He's not in the session right now. He's not putting a lap time. He might not see the 1:47 machine of Stuart Gibbons get started. Deck Crowther finds some time last time around. He gets up into 24th position, and of course, it's showing us our class positions. Let's get that one changed. It's something that I really wish would just save all the time, and it doesn't save. Always goes back to class positions, which is really annoying. But 25th now for Crowther. Improvements ahead. Ronald de Jong sitting 12th position overall right now, ahead of Peter Van Gool. Van Gool getting across into the Audi machine. Of course, the last time we saw him in the Honda, he was upside down at turn number 1 at Mugello. He jumped across into the Audi machine, and since then Van Gool has been putting in some decent pace out there. Be hoping to find himself a bit further up the order than he has done so far this season, though. At the top of your order, Ben Oucher has gone even faster. He's found his way closer to Gordon Haig. I said he was about to say he found his way past Kim Portland, but Portland has just crossed the timing line, has found his way up towards his teammate of Haig. So once again, it is the Sim Racing Norway by Polyalchemy team that find themselves at the very front of the order. Ben Oucher is following around Gordon Haig right now, the 911 machine, looking to see if he can benefit from the leader of this qualifying session and pull himself a bit further forward. It's helped him so far to get into 3rd position and ahead of the man who's been on pole 3 times this season, Dan Mould. As Daniel Downing is down in 8th position right now. Not good for your championship leader, especially with rivals Haig and Portland 1st and 2nd. Oucher, once the drops are applied, will be in that fight as well in 3rd. I mean, Dan Mould has had some poor weekends. I don't know if he'll be able to put it. He needs to have some good weekends. He needs to have good both races to pull himself actually up the order in this one, and not just keep himself just getting good race number 1s and then bad race number 2s. He needs great race 1s and 2s to pull himself back into this championship fight. Of course, Dan Mould is the only driver out there to have taken a pro championship. No other driver out there has done that. Dan Mould's done it 4 times, I believe it is, over the course of the 10 seasons of competition so far. The last time he did it was season number 9. Last season's champion, of course, not getting out there this season of competition, which is a real shame. Not to see Adam Dalmont giving it another go, but I know that the changes to the TCRs have not been in favour of a lot of drivers, but it has been in favour of a lot of more who are stepping into the TCRs for the first time. Ben Oucher pulls out of the way there after invalidating his lap time early. He then didn't want to give the benefit to Gordon Haig as we head into the final minute of this qualifying session. Dan Mould sits in 4th position but in pit lane, so he will not be going any faster. And Bradley Sellers, who has taken 2 class victories so far this season and is leading the semi-pro field of drivers, are taking an overall victory at Silverstone. Currently your fastest semi-pro right now, but only by 25 hundredths of a second quicker than Tony Walker. He invalidates that lap and backs out. Walker himself has taken 1 victory so far this season. He did it in race number 2 at Nürburgring in that class. Can he find class victory number 2 here today? He's just off of Sellers, so he has a great opportunity to do so. Daniel Downing will not be liking the fact that he is down in 9th position. He is not out on track, which means he'll be not starting any higher than 9th. Walker crosses the timing line. It's not a valid lap on that one for him, and he finds himself down in 6th position, which is a real shame for him in terms of his fight with Bradley Sellers, but not a bad start overall from 6th position, and just a position behind Bradley Sellers on the grid. With qualifying over then, and 32 drivers ready to get going here for race number 1 of round number 5. The end of today, we are going to be already halfway through this season of competition. I can't believe it. Gordon Haig then is going to start from pole position for the first time this season. Can he convert that into his first overall race victory? He'll certainly be hoping so. Kim Borkland will be starting in second position ahead of Ben Oucher, and Dan Mould will be starting in P4. Bradley Sellers will be fifth on the grid, the fastest of your semi-pros, ahead of Tony Walker, who will be starting alongside him. Carl Hardy will be starting seventh ahead of Demis Titchler, and not a qualifying to remember for Daniel Downing. He'll be down in ninth position. Dami Herber will be starting in 10th in the Pro-Am field, the fastest of your Pro-Ams. Viggo Olsen-Lee will be starting just behind in 11th ahead of Thomas Kuhn in 12th position. John Brown starting in 13th position. Look at that, 7,000ths of a second ahead of Peter Van Gool. Josh Taylor starting in 15th position ahead of Ronald de Jong. It is then Marcus Gesdow starting in 17th place ahead of Fraser Geraghty, rounding out 18th position. And on your 10th row of the grid, it's going to be Paul Hurley alongside Lucas Henschel, drivers fighting for the Pro-Am Championship. Craig Walters is starting 21st, and after what was a very strong practice session, not able to pull himself away from the other amateur drivers as much, but Matt Pearce on pole position again in the amateur field. Daniel Lewis is going to start from 23rd ahead of JB Dejay in 24th. It is Scott Malcolm in 25th on the hunt to try and get past Pearce and take a first-class victory of the season. Dec Crowther will be starting in 26th position ahead of Per Harvard Hafstad in 27th. Chris Evans will be starting in 28th place. On the 15th row of asking, Torben Mayer will be starting in 29th with Joshua Syme in 30th. And at the back of the field, Christian Larson in 31st position. No lap time on the board for Stuart Gibbons. We'll be hoping to see the Blade Designs machine out there for race number 1, but as it stands, he is not on the circuit just yet, so we will have to wait for the time being to see if he gets himself out there. We have our 32 drivers lined up on the grid then, ready for the first race of the day as we get ready for racing action here. 20 minutes are on the clock, and around Imola we are predicting that will be about 11 laps of racing action. I do like it when you have a small number of laps like 11, because they just fly by, the racing action constant. We get ready then for race number 1 here at Imola. Gordon Haig starting from pole for the first time. Alongside him, his teammate. We are green and away here. Off of the line, Bradley Sellers doesn't get a great launch. Carl Hardy gets straight into the lead of the semi-pro field, splitting in the middle of the two leaders of the semi-pro field on the line, and he holds it in towards turn number 1 as well, coming in behind, trying to keep it all clean. It looks like we will get, for the most part, and for the whole part actually, everyone through the opening corners without issue, well, without contact. Christian Larsen's had issues. He's picked up a penalty off the line and will have to come down pit lane. A little bit of gravel kicking up there for Daniel Downing. The championship leader's day going bad from qualifying to worse at the start of this race. He falls outside of the invert, and Daniel Downing is turned by Dami Herber. And Downing slams on his brakes to make sure he doesn't roll back on track. But what has been a disastrous qualifying is out of the race for Daniel Downing. He is down pit lane. And for Daniel Downing, a meatball flag. He will be ruining this race weekend so far. Imola, I said you'd love it or hate it. Daniel Downing right now must be hating it. Dami Herber lost a lot of positions himself with the contact there with Daniel Downing as we come to the chicane at the start of the lap, at the end of the lap I should say. They settle themselves down. JB Dejay gets past Joshua Syme in the background of our camera shots there as we head towards the end of lap number 1, off of the opening lap of asking then, and it is race lead for Gordon Haig, but Kim Borkland is looking to take that fight to his teammate. It's not often we see these two drivers go for proper fighting. We see them changing positions when they are fighting to try and get into the race lead, but now they're fighting each other. Borkland has the inside. Haig doesn't go too aggressive in his defense on the outside line. It is right now Kim Borkland who has moved into the lead of this one. Poleman, Gordon Haig down to second. He's got Ben Oucher and Dan Mould all over his rear end as well. Peter Van Gool finds himself into the gravel through the exit of the opening section of corners. Paul Hurley keeps Craig Walters and Dammy Herber at bay. Herber, though, getting over the curbing, as that's going to be Hurley into the gravel. His contact behind as well. Walters off the circuit, comes back on. His contact with Daniel Lewis. They both find themselves facing the right way, but they have both lost a number of positions in that one. Up towards the front, and Ben Oucher has lost position to Dan Mould as well. Craig Walters trying to hold on to Daniel Lewis. Lewis keeping it all the way around the outsides off the circuit there. Has he been able to keep a nose in? No, he will have to drop in behind and wait for just a moment. Ben Oucher on the rear end of Dan Mould looked like he was trying to potentially make another move through up towards chicane. With how close he was getting, but no move out. He knew it wasn't really the best of overtaking opportunities. Carl Hardy behind in 5th position overall, leading your semi-pro field of drivers, looking for what would be a second-class win of the season, looking to try and take the fight up towards the leading 4 pro drivers at the moment as he pulls away from Tony Walker, Bradley Sellers and Demis Titchler in class. Vigard Olsen-Leah is your man at the front of your Pro-Am field of drivers at the moment, 4/10 clear of Thomas Coombe and Marcus Gesdow. Gesdow looking for potentially a second-class win of the season after getting promoted up into that Pro-Am, starting the season in the amateur field, of course. Dammy Herber now needs to keep Paul Hurley at bay after Hurley went off the circuit last lap, which then led, obviously, to the little bit of contact behind between Walters and Lewis. Hurley does look for a moment to the inside of Herber, but Herber keeps the line exactly as he needs to, and it could put Hurley under pressure now from Lucas Henschel out of the first few corners. Henschel does move across to the left. He decides to back out of it, though. Could see if Hurley might overdrive it yet again here. He keeps it better onto the track this time. Dan Mould loses 2 positions. Ben Oucher and Carl Hardy has gone through, and here comes Tony Walker to make that position through as well, as Hardy looking to try to get past Oucher. Dan Mould is sideways, contact with Bradley Sellers, as Mould now is slowly falling down the order. It's side by side between Sellers and Mould. Mould closes the door on the outside. Sellers runs wide anyway and falls down the positioning. Demis Titchler now just behind. Could look to try and make the overtake up towards the chicane. It looks to the outside line here as Walker tries to get past Hardy, as that's Dan Mould off the circuit into the parking area. He finds himself spinning there and out of the race. Dan Mould, that will be him out of race number 1. Hopefully we'll see him race number 2. Tony Walker gets to the inside of Carl Hardy through the penultimate turn and makes the overtake for the lead of your semi-pro field. Borkland and Haig here, they've pulled away from the rest of the field, but if Haig can keep up with Borkland in this race, I wouldn't be surprised if we finally see the 2 teammates fight it out, looking for race victory. It'll be their first overall race victory for either of these drivers. Haig took class victory last week, of course. They are fighting for the win for the first time in both of them. Chris Evans here looking to try and get past Per Harvard Hafstad at the rear end of the field. This is the 27th overall. It's 5th in the amateur field. Evans looks to the inside of Hafstad, has to stay behind, doesn't feel too much of the confidence to dive it up the inside, and to be fair, from that far back, better to just hang back for now and wait to see what happens later on in the lap. John Brown trying to recover after the contact that he had earlier on with Craig Walters. He is side by side with Thomas Coombe. He's trying to keep it around the outside there. A little bit of a slide on the rear end, but Brown gets himself back up into 8th. It's 4th in class, because we have said goodbye to Daniel Downing and to Dan Mould in this race. Well, I say goodbye to Daniel Downing. He is out there lapping. This is, I mean, he's getting the practice in, ready for race number 2. He'll be starting at the rear of the field, of course, but for Dan Mould, he is out of this race, and it doesn't look like we will see him in the second race of the evening either. Marcus Gesdow goes a bit slow through chicane. He's picked up a slowdown for sure as he's run deep there. He was leading the Pro-Am field, but that slowdown drops in behind Thomas Kuhn once more. And Kuhn once again at the front end of that order. Vigard Olsen Leia here running around in third position, looking to try and take what could be a first Pro-Am win. That is your amateur champion from last season, of course. Vigard Olsen Leia looking to try and get a podium if he can. He's got Ronald de Jong of the semi-pros just behind. How hard is de Jong going to fight? Remember, they are in separate classes, but they take their results from overall race positions. So they do want to fight absolutely everyone out there, even if they're in their separate classes here. As that was Fraser Geraghty for a moment looking like he could have a go at Josh Taylor. In fact, he is going to have a go at Josh Taylor all the way around the outside there. It's a bit of a bumpy run for Taylor. He goes slow through the exit, and for Fraser Geraghty, just carried that speed all the way around the outside and moved his way up into 13th position overall. Ronald de Jong still on the rear end of Vigard Olsen Leia here, looking to see if he can try and do something with this. It's a little bit of cars going all over the shot in the background, as that was Joshua Syme off the circuit, and JB Dejay has managed to pick up a meatball flag in all of this one. What has happened here? Dejay moves across to the racing line. It was contact with Syme. That was the broken suspension, and then with it being said, Syme is then hit by the 74 machine of Scott Malcolm and off the circuit in that one. So a little bit of the wars there for your leader in your amateur field championship. He finds his way down to 6th in class, 28th overall. Not great when he's got Matt Pearce running in 21st. Scott Malcolm's done a good job though to pull himself up into this one, and look at that, JB Dejay was in a bit of a fight. He completely cuts the chicane there. He will have to come down pit lane, of course, to sort out the damage. That was Peter Van Gool. We just saw parts over to the side and out of this race. What has happened to Peter Van Gool in that moment? He comes into the chicane, and it's contact with Scott Malcolm on the exit. It's contact with Malcolm on the exit of the chicane. Let's watch this one. It's a wobble from Malcolm, and Gould just not appreciating the wider line there. And unfortunately, a little bit of contact between them means that Van Gool is not only down and out of this race, it looks like he might be out of both races here, which is a real shame. He's had a bit of an unlucky season, hasn't he? He's been involved in incidents across most weekends, and it just means that he's not been having the points on the board that he would be hoping for. Dami Herber here off the circuit has just fallen off a number of positions. That was a massive defending slide there from Hurley. And I think there was just a little bit of contact going on once again. Chris Evans has had some issues in the background. He finds himself around in all of that one. And then we had, yeah, it looks like Syme just found his way. Sorry, it looked like, no, that was Herber. Sorry, it looks like Herber just found his way off the circuit a little bit there. But now he's back on. He's behind Hurley, behind Walters for the time being, as we try to keep an eye on all of the different gaps that are out there. Matt Pearce is currently sitting now 5.7 seconds ahead of Torburn Mayle, as Mayle has got past Malcolm, because Scott Malcolm has picked up a meatball flag in all of that with the contact that he had. It means the man that was second in class will have to come down pit lane to fix his car. Daniel Lewis, though, getting overtaken by Matt Pearce is good news for Matt Pearce, because he's put more and more space, more and more distance between himself and his closest competitors in class. He'll be trying to pull himself all the way up towards the front of the championship order. This is Bradley Sellers. He's sitting third in the semi-pro field. He's got Kyle Hardy and Tony Walker just in front of him. This is the fight for 4th overall. It is your fight for the lead in your semi-pro field. Tony Walker has taken 1 win so far this season in class. Hardy has taken 1 win so far this class. And Bradley Sellers has taken two class victories and one overall race victory, which he did at race 2 last week. Right now, if it was to end the way it is right now, Thomas Kuhn would find himself in pole position in the next round of in the second race of asking. Vigard Olsen Lear has just had a big off, looks like at the hairpin. Under attack here from Josh Taylor. He's looking to try and get the inside line. Vigard Olsen Lear, though, carrying the speed all the way around the outside. He is going to try and do his best to try and hold on to 13th position. It is side by side between Taylor and Olsen Lear. It remains the podium now. It's a little bit of a nudge. Hurley then getting involved in nudges as well. Dammy Herber, in all of that, has picked up a penalty for instant limit. Vigard Olsen Lear, though, does keep himself ahead. Herber was a little bit behind. I think it was an off-track that picked up the penalty for him. No, it looks like actually he might have just been involved in that little bit of the bumping and banging. Right then, let's have a little look at what happened to Olsen Lear in the initial stage of things. Was it contact here with De Jong? It was contact with Ronald De Jong that spent Vigard Olsen Lear spinning. He got himself back going straight again pretty quickly in all of that one. It looks like Herber was just caught up in that accordion effect that ended up giving him the penalty. He was at the rear end of it. And there, that was the penalty picked up from Dammy Herber, which means he is going to be down pit lane. As we can see, Joshua Syme, his teammate, has also picked up, well, I say his teammate, running under the same banner, has also picked up a penalty, has also come down pit lane in all of this one. 6 minutes on the clock remain as we are going to be approaching the final 3 laps of asking at the end of this one. But right now, the lead for your semi-pro field has invited Demis Titular into this one. The 4 drivers, all within just a few tenths of each other, are looking to try and take the class victory. As it'll be a nice, strong result at race number 1, and it will give, the fact that it's only the top 10 inverted this season, it means that you aren't going to find yourself too far down the order, and you could find yourself coming back up at it. Of course, we're yet to see any driver take victory in race 1 and race 2. Any driver that's won race number 1 has not gone to do the double yet so far. Is that going to be the case when we enter the halfway point of the season at the end of race number 2 and we get into the back half of the season, or is someone going to be able to change that? Right now, Kim Borkland is your man on the mission for race 1 victories after stacking clear of your pole sitter and teammate Gordon Haig. Comes out of the final turn here. In the fight for the semi-pro lead, Tony Walker has increased it to about 0.6 of a second, but for Carl Hardy, he has got Bradley Sellers all over his rear end right now as we come up towards turn number 1, and it is going to be the inside for Bradley Sellers to make the move past Carl Hardy. And Sellers, who started the semi-pro field at the front at the start of this race, has finally got past Carl Hardy, who managed to make his way past Walker and Sellers on the start line after an absolutely fantastic launch. But the number 93 machine now on the hunt for win number 3 in class. Tony Walker on the hunt for win number 2. Managed to do it at race number 2 at Nürburgring, yet to take victory in the first race of the day. Can he take it here? Well, he's got about a second clear over the chasing pack that they'll be hoping get themselves involved in a bit of a fight. Deck Crowther leads Daniel Lewis, about 0.3 of a second separating these two at the moment, but you can just see that up and down the field there are these groupings of cars trying to do something. There is a grouping of cars trying to find their way into the inverted field of drivers. Top 10 are inverted. Fraser Geraghty and Marcus Gesdow are less than a second away from Ronald de Jong, who finds himself in that pole position spot for race number 2. That is because we lost a further driver who was up here in all of this fight, of course, because originally Thomas Kuhn was holding on to No, I think that's actually because Coom has got his way past De Jong, I should say. I will correct myself in that one. There was a bit of a fight going on between all of our drivers, and there was a bit of changing going on around. Is this where it all happened? There you go. That's where it all happened. Who was that finding their way off the circuit? It was Marcus Gesdow. Found his way off the circuit. He fell out of the top 10 with that. So Gesdow wants to find his way back into the top 10. So he was there, and then he lost it. Almost 3 wide up towards turn number 1. Paul Hurley, though, has to stick in behind. He can see the side-by-side between Walters and Olsen Leah in front of him. We ride on board here because he gets past Walters on the exit as Walters falls down the order there. That was a bit of a slow exit, and now has Lucas Henschel looking to the inside. There's a nudge there between the 2 cars. Walters is going to go a little bit deep, and now in towards the hairpin. Lucas Henschel trying to hold that wider line. He has to tuck in behind though, but that was a slow line out of the opening section for Craig Walters. He would not have appreciated the way that he would have gone through that early section of the lap. We will watch that one again here for Walters. It was originally side by side with Olsen Lear, who's on the tighter line. That's why there was a nudge between them. Walters onto the grass, and then he loses out not only to Hurley but to Matt Pearce, your leading amateur driver as well, who's looking to maximise all the points that he possibly can in this one. We come through the final turns, and it means we go on to the white flag lap of Asking. Kim Borkland will pick up the white flag in the first of 2 races today. He leads the way onto the last lap ahead of his teammate and the man who started on pole, Gordon Haig, who is 0.6 of a second behind. It looks like Kim Borkland, who is ahead of Haig in the championship as well, I believe, is looking to try and take a bigger step towards Daniel Downing, who is the driver at the back of your order still in this race. 28th position for Daniel Downing. He finds himself right at the very back of the order of those still racing. Syme, Van Gool and Mould all out. This is Titchler then, heading up towards the hairpin. Ahead of him, though, Bradley Sellers looking to try and do the outside line on Walker. Hardy looked to try and take advantage of that for a moment to duck up the inside. This is your 4-car fight for the lead of your semi-pros, of course. As we come in towards the middle part of the circuit, as the leading 2 drivers just opening that gap a little bit. Demis Titchler, though, can he find his way onto a class podium here as we head in towards the double right-hander and towards the final chicane on the lap? Titchler needs to set it up. Hardy goes defensive. Titchler moves to the left-hand side of the circuit. Hardy pulls across to the racing line. We get onto the brakes. Everyone gets it slowed down. And we have just one more heavy braking zone to try and make the move there. But we watch Kim Borkland come round the final corner because it's not only a first-class victory for Borkland, it's first overall victory of the season for Kim Borkland. Behind, though, it's changing of positions as drivers try to make the move. Sellers tried to make the dive on Tony Walker, but Walker will keep himself ahead to take victory in the semi-pro field for the second time this season in your pro am field. Thomas Coombe has been relatively untouchable in that one, and he finds himself into 9th position in the end. Ronald de Jong will find himself in the pole position spot for race number 2, and for a 3rd time of asking, and for 3 in a row, Matt Pearce will take home 20th position on the road and victory in class 20th and victory in class for Matt Pearce at the end of that one. What a great race that was for race number 1. We've still got race number 2 to go. And of course, Ronald de Jong is going to be starting the 2nd race of the day from the pole position spot by finishing race 1 in P10. We will get you your official race results in just a moment's time here. In the last lap of asking, it was also penalties back the way of Dami Herber, and then Scott Malcolm picked up a penalty on the last lap of asking as well, which means that when they cross the timing line, they will get a post-race time penalty added on, which will, of course, demote them. Harvard Hafstad as well, in fact, picking up a penalty on the last goer as well. Some big issues between Malcolm and Hafstad, it looks like, at the very end of all of that one. In fact, it does look like there was a bit of an issue between them. Let's see if we can figure out what's gone on between these two. What has happened there to Per Hafstad's car? The rear end completely broken. This is the issue that we saw there. Look at that, a big old swing off. What has happened here? I mean, it looks like he's actually done that a lot sooner than even lap 11. He's got no rear wing. I'm trying to figure out here. Oh, look, that was the Scott Malcolm. That's where Malcolm's picked up penalty. This is lap 8. He's still got no rear wing. This is lap 7. He's got no rear wing. This is lap 6. Right, this is where he's lost his rear wing in contact with Scott Malcolm. But that meant that Harvard Hafstad just went half the race with a car looking like that. And how that is not a meatball flag, yet tiny contact that we've seen. I mean, what a meatball flag from Daniel Downing at the very start of this one. Yet that was not a meatball. Okay, we'll take it. Right, let's have a look then at the results then from race number 1 of the day. And these will be your results that will be reversed. Your top 10. Kim Borkland winning race number 1 ahead of Gordon Haig, his teammate. For Borkland, it is not only a first-class win of the season, it is a first overall win of the season for Borkland. Gordon Haig taking home second after getting pole position, just wasn't able to convert it, being beaten out by his own teammate. Ben Oucher coming home in third, and for Tony Walker, it was win number 2 in class for him in the semi-pros. 4th overall, just ahead of Bradley Sellers and Carl Hardy. Devin Stitchler coming home in 4th in class, 7th overall. Sorry, John Brown coming home 8th position. Thomas Coombe finds himself in 9th position overall. He takes home what is a 3rd win of the season in your Pro-Ams. He'll be starting race number 2 in 2nd position as well. Ronald de Jong, though, starts in prime position for race number 2. He'll be on pole position in the invert. Fraser Garrity came home in 11th in the end, ahead of Marcus Gesdow. Josh Taylor taking home 13th, ahead of Vigard Olsen-Leah, and Paul Hurley in 15th place. Craig Walters coming home 16th, ahead of Lucas Henschel and Deck Crowther. Daniel Lewis taking home 19th position, and for what was a 3rd race in a row, Matt Pearce takes home victory in your amateur field. In 21st position, it was then Torburn Mayle ahead of Chris Evans. Christian Larson coming home in 23rd position ahead of Dami Herber, having lots of issues, of course, with penalties. Daniel Downing in 25th ahead of JB Deshay, and after last lap issues, contacts and penalties, Scott Malcolm in 22nd position ahead of Harvard Hafstad. Out of the race then was Joshua Syme, Peter Van Gool, Dan Mould and Stuart Gibbons. I don't think we will see any of those 4 back out for race number 2. Right then, we've got about 2 minutes until race number 2 is going to begin. And like I say, we are going to see an invert of the top 10, which means we are going to have Ronald de Jong starting on pole position. Alongside him will be Thomas Coombe. What it does mean, though, is that our battle in that semi-pros that saw Walker ahead of Sellers, ahead of Hardy and Titchler, they still all find themselves together out there, but certainly not having the races that they would have hoping for are some of our championship leaders. having a bit of a poor one out there, but we'll be hoping to do a little bit more in the next one of asking. One of the drivers then involved in that in that race 1 fight, we will quickly have a word with here. It was Bradley Sellers fighting out for victory in class with Tony Walker and Carl Hardy. Sellers, you had a great run out there. It wasn't quite enough to take home victory, but a good battle that you had.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was great that we're all so close together. I just need to get my stats down better because they're letting me down a lot at the moment.
Yep, you lost out on the line. Somehow Hardy managed to get past both you and Walker on the line and make your way through. You will be starting ahead of Walker, of course, behind Hardy. Hopefully a better start. Are you hoping to take that fight to them once more, maybe end up on top this time?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got an extra 5 minutes, so hopefully, if I need it, I can use it to my advantage.
Well, good luck for race number 2. Congratulations on second in class, and hopefully you can find your way to victory lane once more.
Thank you very much.
Bradley Seller there coming home, race number 1 in 5th position. We prepare then to get onto the grid in the second race of the day, and it is going to be, like I say, the top 10 from race 1 reversed for this one. The rest of your field filing in as they were from their race results. What that does mean, though, is we will talk you through your entire field of drivers, so you know where the driver you are supporting is starting from for this one. And as I say before, Ronald de Jong will be the man who starts this one at the very front of the order with our inverted field from our top 10. So let's get that up on your screens now so we can talk through the grid for the second race of the day. Ronald de Jong is going to be starting on pole position after finishing race number 1 in 10th place. Thomas Kuhn will be starting alongside him in second. John Brown will be on the line, the highest of your pro drivers, 3rd place on the grid. Dennis Titchler will be starting in 4th ahead of Carl Hardy and Bradley Sellers. We saw those going on a hard fight in race 1, but Tony Walker was the semi-pro to finish ahead of all of them. He finished 4th in the race. We'll start 7th here. Ben Oucher, Gordon Haig and Kim Borkland, your podium from race 1, will find themselves in 8th, 9th and 10th position respectively on the grid for race number 2. The rest of your field as they were then going into the second race of asking. It is your race 1 results. Fraser Geraghty will be starting in 11th, just missing out on the invert ahead of Marcus Gesdow, who threw himself off the road and out of the inverted field of drivers. Josh Taylor will be starting in 13th position ahead of Vigard Olsen-Leah. Paul Hurley will be starting in 15th. Craig Walters will be in 16th position ahead of Lucas Henschel in 17th place. And Deck Crowther will be starting at the back of the 9th row. On the 10th row of asking, Daniel Lewis will be starting in 19th position ahead of Matt Pierce, your highest of your AM drivers. Can he go back-to-back 4 races in a row for amateur win? Well, he's got Mayle, Evans and Larson all directly behind him. He had a bit of a buffer in race 1. He does not have that here in the start of race number 2. Dammy Herber will be 24th position on the grid ahead of Daniel Downing. JB Deshay in 26th ahead of Scott Malcolm and Per Harvard Hastad. Joshua Syme at 29th. It doesn't look like he is gridding up. Neither is Peter Van Gool from 30th. We do have Dan Mould gridding up from 31st position though. And it doesn't look like we'll have Stuart Gibbons out there again. So what that does mean, though, is it looks like Dan Mould will be starting from 31st position. It'll be interesting to see what the pro driver is able to do from the very rear end of the field. That being said, our drivers are all on the grid and preparing for the second race of racing action. It is your longer race. We had 20 minutes in race number 1. Wow, let's add another 5 to that one here. 25 minutes will be on the board here with 14 laps predicted for this one as we prepare to go racing for the second time of asking here tonight. It will be the halfway stage of the season after this second round. I can't believe we're already there. I honestly can't believe that we have already reached the halfway stage of this championship. I felt like it kicked off last week. Absolutely crazy. The lights are up here and we prepare for race number 2. 25 minutes on the board with Ronald de Jong on pole, Thomas Kuhn beside. We go green flag action racing for the second time. Once again, A slow launch there from Bradley Sellers. We spoke to him. He just cannot get the launch down, and he finds himself falling. 11th position right now. It's 3 wide into turn number 1. Can he find himself through? Yes, he can. So does Garrity, and Gesdal ahead though towards the front. It's a little bit of off-track moment there from Demis Titcher as Carl Hardy finds his way into 4th position right now. Ronald de Jong has had an absolutely great start at the front to hold on to his lead in this one. Contact between Walker and Ultra. Ultra tries to switch across, go to the inside into the hairpin. Walker going very defensive. Gordon Haig here wants to get his overtake past Ultra. Ultra shuts the door hard on the outside line there. Can't make that move as we go once again 3 wide towards the back of the course here, as this is JB Dejay, Dami Herber and Dan Mould. Mould got a jump start though. He's looking to find his way up the pit order, but he is going to have to come down pit lane to sort out that black flag that he has picked up on the opening lap of asking here on the start line, in fact, and he looks once again to move up the inside of Dami Herber. It's side by side between Mould and Herber. There was a little bit of a nudge there. Mould finds his way through. Herber off the circuit, gets himself back on, and will be looking to try and defend himself from JB Dejay. He can't do it. Dejay now to the right hand side of the circuit. They are side by side. Herber looking for the wide way round. Dejay keeps it alongside though, but Herber, the tighter line on the exit, keeps him up in 22nd position off of the opening lap of asking then. It is going to be Ronald de Jong leading the way around the circuit ahead of John Brown, Thomas Coombe behind in 3rd position right now. As we jump on towards the fights that are going on behind, it is Daniel Downing looking to try and find his way up the order. Remember that Downing had a very poor race number 1 after contact on the opening lap of asking. He is trying to recover it here in race number 2. Just maximise the points that he can. It'll be his drop week right now, but in case he has an even worse race later on in the season, he's got to maximise his points. He rides the curbs heavy there to get past Walters, and he does make his way through. Lucas Henschel has found himself around with issues on the opening lap of asking. Not what the Pro-Am Championship leader will want. This is Tony Walker to the inside of Demis Titchler for a moment. Outra looks to try and make that move. Outra is now going to try and follow through, but no! Ben Outra is turned by Demis Titchler. He finds himself hard into the wall. The rear end of his car is gone. For Ben Outra, it is race over. He'll get his car turned. He's just got to wait for everyone to go through, but he gets his car turned. But look at the rear end of that Elantra. It is turned into a real estate car back there. He'll need to get his car down pit lane and fixed. He'll just be taking whatever points he can get out of this one. Major contact there for Ben Outra. I mean, it is an evening of issues for some of your championship contenders. Haig and Portland will be looking at their rivals constantly falling. They saw Daniel Downing falling in race 1. They've just seen Ben Outra fall in race 2. They'll just be thinking, okay, we're good here. Let's just take the points right now. There's no point to make any unnecessary risks at this stage when your competitors are having such a poor evening at it out there. We'll have a catch up on a few of the incidents that are happening during this race, and we'll start with your Pro-Am Championship leader, Lucas Henschel. What happened to him? It was contact from Craig Walters behind. Lucas Henschel finds himself spinning. It was hard onto the brakes. It's a little bit of a nudge on the rear end. That won't do too much in terms of damage. And then for Ben Outra, it was just a line that came together there, wasn't it, with Titchler that just sent him spinning. We saw that is exactly what happened, actually, to Daniel Downing in race number 1. So it does easily happen there on that outside line, but it is a real shame, of course, for Ben Outra. Daniel Downing trying to find his way up the order in this one. Dan Mould still has that penalty to serve. If memory serves me right, he has to serve it this lap or he will get disqualified. Dami Herber looking to try and get the outside of Craig Walters here as they are fighting it out for 18th position. They certainly do that, as Borkland and Haig have just swapped position. Was that team play? Was that a proper fight? The 911 machine sticks to the left, the 884 to the right. They're running along, and it looks like, once again, just like we saw in race number 1, Haig backs out of it. He doesn't want to take the fight to his teammates, certainly at this early stages. Obviously, he wants the points over Portland, but they also understand that, what they could lose if they fight too hard out there. Haig, though, just accepting what is coming his way at the moment. He falls behind Kim Portland. We'll see if they're able to work their way through towards the front of this order, which is still being led by Ronald de Jong. De Jong has taken one class victory so far this season. Could he take a victory overall in race number 2? Well, he's pulling a gap on pro driver Tom Brown right now, so he could do. And Thomas Coombe stepping into the Pro-Ams for the first time this season after being runner-up in the amateur field last season. Currently in 3rd position. Dan Mould finally comes down pit lane to take that penalty that he picked up for a jump start off the line. He'll find himself falling down the order. It looks like he'll fall behind Scott Malcolm, but it looks like he might stay ahead of Torburn Nail on his way out of pit lane in all of this one. He does come out of pit lane. There is Torburn Nail and Ben Oucher as well, but he does keep himself clear of both of those drivers. Paul Hurley here. He's doing quite well in the Pro-Am Championship as well, actually, Hurley. He was only a couple of points off of trying to take the championship lead at the top of the order there. So running 5th in class right now, 15th. He'll be trying to maybe follow Daniel Downing up the order in this one and towards those ahead of him. Bradley Sellers looking to try and move up the order after a very poor getaway at the start of race number 2. All over the rear of Marcus Gesdow. He is 6th in class right now. It's 11th overall as he comes through the back end of the circuit for Bradley Sellers. He will be wanting to try and get a strong result once more. He knows he has the pace, and he knew he needs to work on the car launches in these TCR machines. It is, I think, the biggest learning curve for so many drivers since the update is how to get these cars off the line. And I don't drive too often. I do get myself down there on the track though, and I do like the TCR machines, my car of choice being the Elantra. But when the update came through at the start of the iRacing season, I found that the car launches were so much easier. I actually stalled it on the line in multiple championships in the Elantra before the update. After the update, my launches were perfect. I actually gained about 6-7 positions on the opening lap of RC purely because of my launches. And I found that update really helped it out. I've not driven the Audi yet, not tried to get that car off the line, but just looking at it, it does look like it is a handful to get off the line in these new machines. So a learning curve for a lot of them. And right now it's something that I think for the way of Bradley Sellers, it's something he needs to be practicing out there because it is hindering his opportunity to take more race victories in this one. He could have taken victory in race number 1 had it not been for a poor launch, and he's fallen even further down the order here in race number 2 because of the poor launch as well. And he's now having to try and get past a Pro-Am driver before he can even take the fight to any more semi-pros out there. Daniel Lewis is part of a good train of drivers, including the one behind him as well. But Lewis looking to get past Deck Crowther for 16th position overall in this one. He's over the rear end at the moment. About a 1/10 of a second separates him and Crowther ahead, and he could line this up towards turn number 1. Is he going to try and do it any earlier? I mean, there's always the opportunity to, but I expect to see the main opportunity happening down at turn number 1. After having to come down pit lane with the jump start penalty, Dan Mould turns his race 1 retirement into a race 2 retirement, despite trying to get out there. And that we just saw was Ben Oucher. Whoa, what has happened here to Oucher? He's already got severe rear end damage. He's already been down pit lane. When has this come in the way of Ben Oucher? Let's see if we can figure out where it's happened. It's early. What has happened to Ben Oucher? How long ago? This is a whole lap we've gone back here. 2 laps. Where did this happen for Ben Oucher? Omni, did he not come down pit lane? Ben Oucher has not come down pit lane. I thought that he's got that issue again. He has now come down pit lane. I was surprised. He was out there for 4 laps with that damage from that initial spin. I'm really surprised that it's the same that we saw from Per Hervad Hafstad in race 1, that is not a meatball flag. And the reason I say that is because the rear wing on these cars means that the whole rear end steps out and around. There's a massive safety concern. Now, I am so surprised it is not a meatball flag for a car in unsafe conditions. Anyway, we return to live racing. Josh Taylor trying to keep Daniel Downing at bay. Downing trying to recover in this second race of the day here as we head up towards chicane. Ben Oucher is down pit lane. I think he's not out of this session. He hasn't disconnected, but he is down pit lane. I do believe that we will see Ben Oucher not return to the racing circuit for this race, which is a real shame for a number of our pro competitors. But of course, we can have those poor races for Oucher. He wouldn't have been wanting this though. He wasn't here for round number 1. So he would have been wanting to maximise his points at every other race weekend. But unfortunately for him, race number 2 not going his way. Kim Borkland and Gordon Hay. Now they aren't finding their way up the order past Hardy, Coombe, towards Brown or de Jong, but they are doing a good job at just running around in 5th and 6th. And actually with the demise of their competitors, this is fine. You know, this is absolutely fine for them. It means it's on. John Brown is on his way to take first-class victory of the season in the pro field. I mean, he's only 4 tenths behind de Jong, or he was at least. I was about to say he could take overall race victory. He must have the broadcast open in the background, and he's heard his name being said there, because the moment I mentioned John Brown, he throws himself off the circuit. And now what was putting Ronald de Jong under pressure, he's now under pressure from the Pro-Am leader, Thomas Coombe. Carl Hardy also trying to catch up there in 4th position with Borkman and Haig just behind. They are trying to get themselves involved into this fight as well. We're halfway through this second race of the day, and as they come across the timing line, 7 laps will be done. They will have 7 more to go. Craig Walters is over the rear end of Daniel Lewis here as they are fighting it out for 17th and 18th position in this one. And I have noticed we've not looked too much at the amateur field of drivers today, but for the most part they have just been keeping themselves about a second away from each other, not getting themselves too much into the fight. That being said though, Lucas Henschel here of your Pro-Am field is trying to find his way back through. Henschel leading the Pro-Am Championship heading into this evening's racing. Not the best of evenings for him. He's trying to get past Chris Evans. Evans, who's had a bit of a mixed bag actually. Evans, I would not say, I'm not trying to say this in a mean way, but I would not say that Chris Evans is your fastest of your amateur drivers out there. However, he is finding himself sitting second in that amateur field of cars right now. He has taken 1 race victory in class as well this season. It's a strange one in terms of Chris Evans. He has this. Okay, when I said that he's not the fastest, he has got some good pace. He hasn't got the confidence in the car. I think that's what the difference is there. Because when he is just running out there, he can put in some really fast laps. You know, he's running the same as Lucas Henschel right now. He's keeping up relatively with Matt Pierce at the moment. But the moment he needs to go for an overtake, you know, taking that late move, we've seen him back out of those overtakes, those moves, so often this season. And to be fair, it's working out for him. He has got some good results, but he could be getting consistently better results, having that confidence to go slightly later on the brakes, to make that move through, you know, turn number 1 here at Imola, where we've seen him back out. Just put the nose up the inside, unsettle the car ahead, get them onto that awkward racing line. So yeah, I'm not trying to say that he is slow. I'm not saying that he's the slow. I think the racecraft there is what Evans is developing, and that's why we have the amateur field of drivers. Of course, is where drivers are developing those racecrafts. And for the 012 machine, he's developing that racecraft. He's got the overall, you know, that underlying pace there in races here and there. He's showing some good pace. He just needs to take it that little step further in his late moves, his overtaking opportunities. Talking about overtaking opportunities, well, Kim Borkland's about to have one. Carl Hardy, 4th position in this race, has got race 1 winner all over the rear end. Could Borkland be the first driver to take a double victory in the same evening here. Well, to do that, he needs to make this overtake on Kyle Hardy. He moves to the inside up towards turn number 1. Hardy allows that door to remain open, doesn't fight it too hard. He allows the pro driver to make the move through. Kim Borkland gets up into 4th position now. Just 3 more cars to make his way through, but Hardy actually decides to put his nose in a little bit around the outside there. He had a little bit more pace out of the first chicane, as that off the circuit for a second time is John Brown. We saw him out there earlier, and this time it throws him down all the way to 6th. It puts Kim Borkland back into the lead of the pro field, which means no matter what, as it stands, Kim Borkland will be the only driver to have taken a double victory in class in that pro field. Can he take an overall victory? He is half a second of Thomas Coombe. It is then a 2-second jump, and he needs to find up to Ronald de Jong, and he'll only have about 5 laps to do it, but he needs to dispatch Coombe before he can do so. Gordon Haig here is looking to get past Kyle Hardy as they come up towards chicane, and once again Hardy doesn't want to take the fight to the pro drivers. He will allow Haig through. Is he going to do the same for John Brown here, who was looking once again a little bit of aggressive behind, wanting to find his way up the order, and yep, Hardy backs out of it. Yes, you take your points from your overall race results, but for Hardy, why fight, risk getting taken out when the positions actually don't matter in terms of that? He's not fighting these drivers in the championship. He's fighting, yes, Ronald de Jong, he's a little bit ahead of him in the road, and the points not so much, but he's fighting Walker. He's fighting, the likes of Titchler. He's fighting the likes of the drivers behind him. So he's still finishing ahead of him. If he gets into a fight with those pro drivers, gets into an incident, well, he's then going to find himself all the way behind them. So it's a smart racing strategy to take in this one. Dennis Titchler and Tony Walker, though, switch around as Titchler went to the inside of turn number 1. And who was that going to the glass? Marcus Gesdow just took full advantage, absolute full advantage of the racing going on ahead of him. And Marcus Gesdow, what a move from him there. Borkland gets past Coombe into the hairpin. Titchler goes to the inside of Garrity, trying to hold on to 5th in class, 10th overall. But Garrity holds on to that one. We have to have a look back at this one. Marcus Gesdow, watch this. Side by side ahead of him. Between Titchler and Walker, it's all slow. He doesn't slow down, he doesn't know what brakes are, he doesn't know what lifting off is, and 2 for the price of 1 for Marcus Gesdow, and what has to be my overtake of the evening, I'm going to have to say Marcus Gesdow. What a move that was, taking full advantage of the racing going on in front of him. Hafstad here behind one of his sister teammates of Christian Larsen. Larsen runs a bit wide though. Harvard Hafstad makes his way through. He has a rear bumper on his car this time. Does Hafstad, after having the same damage that Outra has this race. He had the same damage in race number 1. They didn't come down to pit lane to fix. And was running half the race on it. He has a rear end this time. That car surely feeling a lot better than it did in the first race. The thing with that though, this is a long pit lane, but do you lose more time by staying out? He had like what, 7 spins in race number 1? Like, don't you just lose more time by staying out, sticking out? And at what point do you then just say, oh, I've been out long enough, like now I am going to lose time? Like, it's a difficult decision to make. Especially as he didn't have a meatball flag. That's the thing. Neither did Outra. No meatball flag for the rear end damage, which again I'm going to say is a massive surprise, because that is extremely dangerous. The rear end of those cars. Actually, that being said, and they were in different classes. It's not like different cars. Sorry. It's not like it wasn't just a meatball flag on the Elantra. It wasn't just a meatball flag on the Audi. It wasn't a meatball flag on either of them. Tony Walker, Kyle Hardy, they're side by side out the hairpin here, as Walker looking to try and take second, Hardy wanting to take second. They are side by side. Walker's going to keep the inside line on Hardy here. Hardy needs to carry speed though, because otherwise he could invite Marcus Gesdow into the fight, but we're behind. They do get into a train right behind there, making sure that nobody was making the overtake, but Tony Walker does keep himself in 6th position after making that overtake initially on Hardy. He holds on now ahead once more. Carl Hardy down to 3rd in class. Is side by side behind though Gesdal and Sellers, but Gesdal keeps himself ahead of Bradley Sellers, who has worked his way back into a top 10 after the slow launch at the start, but he's sitting 9th position right now. And of course Sellers did start this one in what was it? It was 6th position on the grid, so he's still down 3 places off of the start line. Kim Borkland is on the hunt for overall race victory. We go to 3 laps to go here as we cross the timing line. Can he close down a 2-second disadvantage? On the last lap, he was 3/10 quicker than De Jong. At that rate, De Jong is going to take victory here in race number 2. Fraser Garrity got to the rear end of Bradley Sellers there, wasn't quite able to make any overtake. Dami Herber trying to keep JB Dejay at bay. There's 0.4 of a second between them as well. And they are doing well at doing that. Larson is dropping off of Hafsad, that gap opening to about 0.8. Who was that? Kicking up a bit of gravel. It looks like it was John Brown again. Side by side again here from Hardy and Walker. As they, sorry, no, that was Hardy and Gesdal, as Hardy does get his way past Gesdal and in towards 7th position and holding on to that position. Once again, they change for just a moment up towards the hairpin. They change back again in this fight for what is overall 6th position. Of course, Marcus Gesdal 2nd in class, because Thomas Kroom is leading that Pro-Am class. He's 3rd overall, and he is keeping Gordon Haig at bay as it stands right now. 3 cars going for a fight though. Matt Pierce leading Daniel Lewis and Dami Herber as Herber comes together with Lewis. Lewis finds himself spinning and picking up a penalty with that one as well for instant limits. Dami Herber finds himself ahead of that one, and somehow keeping himself clean of all of that is Matt Pierce, looking for win number 4 in a row. Here is the contact once more. As it was Lewis pushing to the left, Herber pushing to the right. They come together. Lewis finds himself off, and yeah, for Daniel Lewis it is a real shame, because it means he is going to have to come down pit lane to serve that penalty, or he will get a post-race penalty. We're close enough to the end where he won't get disqualified for not serving it. So will he serve actually? Will he decide that he'll just take the penalty at the end, the time penalty at the end? JB Dejay here, looking to take advantage of Herber being slightly slower after his contact with Lewis. JB Dejay looking to try and get into 19th position overall. He's to the left-hand side here up towards turn number 1. Herber looking to give him more than enough space by going on that wider line. And Dejay moves up into 19th position. It is 4 cars battling it out here for 7th position. It is 2 by 2 as you like it into the hairpin. Gesdal finds himself ahead of the rest right now as Walker has gapped these cars. Hardy looking to keep it on the outside. There's a little bit of a nudge there. Gesdal on the inside, Hardy on the outside. Behind it is Garrity and Sellers, with Garrity in the blue car, Sellers in that purple and black car. We swing to the right-hand side. We are still 2 by 2 as Hardy puts Gesdal off the circuit. It was never going to work side by side through that section of the course, and for Gesdal, he finds himself falling down to 11th. He maintains 2nd in class, but he throws away a number of positions with contact there with Carl Hardy. Hardy keeps himself in 7th ahead of Bradley Sellers, and then Fraser Garrity behind. And with all of this, Demis Tichler is not too far behind to get himself back involved in this fight as well. But with 46 seconds left on the board, this is the white flag lap of asking. Ronald de Jong picks up the white flag. He is 0.7 of a second clear. And last lap, Borkland was an entire second quicker than Ronald de Jong. Are we going to see a change of position for race lead on the last lap of asking? De Jong started on pole position with your top 10 invert after finishing 10th place in race 1. He has held the lead since the start. He has been untouchable at the front of the order. But now the man who won race number 1 is looking to try and be the first man to take both race 1 and race 2 victories. 0.4 of a second. This gap is closing. It is closing as we continue through the lap and in towards the mid part of the course. You can see the various battles that are going on. Daniel Downing trying to get past Vigard Olsen-Lear as well. Has to drop in behind. The battle in your semi-pros continues with Hardy sitting just up ahead. The gap between De Jong and Borkland has halved since the start of the lap. It's 0.3 of a second now as we get into the final chicane. Borkland is getting all over the rear. A great chicane for Borkland there, but a great chicane from De Jong as well. The gap dropping to under 0.3 of a second. Is De Jong going to be able to take home overall race victory? Is Borkland going to take it? We get onto the braking zone here. It's all about how the final corner lays up and how we can run to the line. It's going to be a drag race. De Jong has the advantage. Borkland behind. Is he going to go for the move? He's going to stay behind up towards the line, the latest point that he possibly can. But Ronald De Jong wins by 0.04 of a second. It is class victory in Pro-Ams for Thomas Coombe in your semi-pros behind. Hardy keeps Sellers, Geraghty and Titchler at bay. And on for 4 races on the trot, Matt Pearce wins the amateur field of drivers to the timing line. What a race. What a first half of the season here. 5 rounds have somehow come and gone, and we get to the mid stage of the 11th season of competition here in the TCRs. What a fantastic evening of racing once more as the sun begins to set and the races is all confirmed. Let's have a look at our official race results here. From race number 2, Ronald De Jong becomes your second semi-pro driver to take home overall race victory, but Borkland does become your first pro driver to take 2 class victories in the same evening. He takes home second overall, 0.04 of a second behind De Jong. Thomas Coombe taking home victory in your Pro-Ams as well. It was a double class victory for Coombe and 3 victories in a row for Thomas Coombe right now. Fantastic for him. Gordon Haig took home 4th overall in the end ahead of John Brown. Tony Walker taking home 6th ahead of Carl Hardy. It was then Bradley Sellers in 8th position. Fraser Geraghty coming home in 9th position in the end. And Demis Titchler rounding out your top 10. It was then Marcus Gesdow coming home in 11th position. Vigard Olsen-Lear crossing the line in 12th place ahead of Daniel Downing. Josh Taylor in 14th ahead of Dec Crowther. Craig Walters in 16th. Matt Pearce coming home in 17th position, taking 4 class victories in a row. JB Dejay in 18th ahead of Dami Herber. And Chris Evans rounding out your top 20. Lucas Henschel, not the evening to remember from the Pro-Am Championship leader heading into this one. I think Thomas Coombe will have that honour going into round number 6. Scott Malcolm finishing in 22nd overall ahead of Per Harvard Hafstad. Christian Larson in 24th ahead of Paul Hurley. Torburn Mail in 26th after serving a penalty. Daniel Lewis 27th and last of your finishers. Ben Oucher, Dan Mould out of this race. Joshua Syme not starting the last race of the day. Neither did Peter Van Gool or Stuart Gibbons. What an evening of racing then. As I said, we will go through your interviews in a moment, but we will be back out in a week's time as we go to Watkins Glen for round number 6 on May 15th. The first half of the season is already done and dusted. I cannot believe that we are already at the point in the season that we have completed half of them. Absolutely flies by. I stepped in to broadcasting here, SRL TV and Joseph Wright Broadcasting. We stepped in the middle of season number 9, and somehow we're already halfway through season number 11. It's absolutely fantastic. And I mean, it's flying through, and it's great on these Friday nights as well, because even after the season ends, we head across to the pre-season for the next season as well. Never a break over here with the TCRs on a Friday, which is absolutely lovely to have, of course. Right then, out of that one, it was a great result for a number of our drivers, but it was a bit of a mixed bag for other drivers. In fact, we'll talk through, we're going to have a word actually with the man that has been absolutely dominating the Pro-Am championship as of late in the last few rounds of asking, because Thomas Kuhn has not only taken both class victories here today, he has taken 3 class victories in a row. And what strong results they were as well. 9th place in race 1, but it was a 3rd place in race number 2.
Yeah, it was a crazy night. Coming into tonight, Imola's not my favourite track, but to qualify where I did, I was super pleased. In practice, I felt like I had good pace. The car felt really good tonight. Yeah, I managed to capitalise on Marcus's mistake in race 1 to just squeeze into the reverse grid. And sort of in race 2, my tactic really was to just sort of not fight too hard with people. I knew obviously Bjorklund and Gordon were going to be coming through, but to hold on as long as I did, I was super happy with that. And yeah, I just managed to hold on for the podium at the end there from Gordon. He definitely tried to take it off me, but I was not losing it at the end.
You've shown some absolutely fantastic pace. As you say, you were really putting up the fight there to Borkland and to Hagen. You did keep Hagen behind all race long. Of course, you were in the amateur field last season. You ended up finishing in the runner-up spot on that one. So did you think that when you were getting up into the Pro-Ams, you'd be at the point, and not only have you taken 4 class victories, not only have you taken 3 in a row, but you're right up there at the top of the championship, and you have a real chance now. We're halfway through the season. It's not like it's just, it's early doors. Like, you are properly in with the championship fight here.
Yeah, when I got moved up, I was a bit apprehensive at first. I knew I had pace sometimes, but quite often I'll have off weeks where I'm nowhere to be seen. But this week in particular, and this season in general, really, it's been really good. I think I'm definitely being more careful with what fights I pick. I think that's what probably lost me the AM title last season. Occasionally I got into battles that I shouldn't have and lost positions or got hit out or anything like that. Whereas this season I'm trying to sort of be smart, and just take each race as it comes. I think my only really bad week so far has been Nürburgring, so I'm hoping that it stays that way for a good while to come.
Yeah, I think that's it. If you have at least just that one bad weekend, you'll drop it. You can have some good points going forward. We've done half the season, and with the results today, I mean, obviously, I'm just saying off the top of my head, I think you might find yourself even at the top of the championship coming out of this one, because Henschel had a really bad run at it today. So it does set you up for good standing going forward. Congratulations on double race victory and an overall podium in race number 2 as well, Thomas. And we look forward to seeing what you can do as the season continues.
Thank you.
Thomas Kuhn there, coming home, race victor in the Pro-Am class in both races, as I say there. And we'll talk to another winner after all of that, taking advantage of a late race issue in race number 1. Ronald, you found yourself on pole position for race 2. It looked like you were running comfortably at the front until the very end with Borkland, but you managed to take home not only class victory for what is the second time this season, an overall race victory, 400th of a second separating you.
Yeah, very nice. I love the track. Bottled it in quali. Only got 1 lap. So I started, I think, P16, 17. Got a little bit lucky with the P10 and then all went well.
It did. You had a nice clean start off of the line as there were issues happening behind you. As they say, a little bit lucky with the invert, but that's what racing is all about sometimes, to take that luck. You showed some great pace though, and you obviously put your car exactly where you needed to with Borkland on that last lap. How was the pressure there trying to keep the pro driver behind as you were coming through the end of the lap, as he was just closing up all the way to the rear? How was that pressure?
Yeah, I thought I had enough on the last lap, but then I made a mistake in the middle of the lap and he was so close. And then I was saying to them, I need to focus on my exit. And my exit was okay, but Kim was much faster on the exit. But yeah, I held the inside line and it was enough because the straight is going to the right. So a little less meters and then gave me the win.
Well, congratulations on an overall race victory for the first time this season. It's lovely points on the board for you as well as we head into the second half of the season. I wish you the best of luck. Congratulations, though, on what is an overall race victory.
Thank you, Joe.
Ronald Dion there. Coming home, let's say, very lucky to get that 10th position in the invert. Not so lucky to hold on to it in race number 1. Race number 2, I should say. It was showing some really good pace. More than luck came down to that one. It was about keeping the car exactly where I needed to. Just kept it enough ahead to take home overall race victory in race number 2. Right then, thank you so much to our drivers that do, I mean, they don't have much of an option. I do pull them into the broadcasting booth here around the SRL TV and Joseph White broadcasting booth, but I do appreciate it when drivers do have a word with me at the end of these races. It's nice to hear it from their perspectives. Congratulations to all of our drivers that have taken home victory over the course of the 2 races, and of course, over the course of the first half of the season. We head into the second half of the season next week when we head across to Watkins Glen. And as we head into the second half of the season, keep your eyes peeled because within a few weeks, of course, you will start to hear the rumblings of season number 12. And if you haven't already done so, make sure you join the Discord so you can get yourself in early doors in that one. These sessions, these leagues, I should say, fill out very quickly all the way through into a nice full grid of drivers. If you haven't already done so, you can scan the QR code on the screen right now to join the Discord. It is also underneath on the SRL TV YouTube channel as well. Right then, here from Imola, it is good night from SRL TV and Joseph White Broadcasting. It is good night. We will be back in a week's time for Watkins Glen. At Joseph White Broadcasting, though, we will be back out there again tomorrow as we head out in the WEC Classics, and then we see the Toyotas again on the 12th. So make sure you're joining us for that. Next Friday, though, we'll be back for our next round, round number 6. Here at the SRL TCR League. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you have a wonderful week ahead of you, and we'll see you next Friday. Goodbye.